and chief Washington correspondent, Major Garrett. Good morning to you both. All right, so fellas, break it down for us. How did Trump pull this off?
So we're going to do a couple of things this morning. Anthony's going to walk through 3 states that so far the former president flipped in this election cycle. And while he does that, he's going to show you some things that are indicative of how that happened. And I'm going to give you some exit poll data while he's doing that to help explain the story. So let's start in Georgia, Anthony.
From the point of view of the data desk, Vlad, it was a story of consistency. Donald Trump hitting his marks with the people that he needed to win. So you can see it on this map, all these rural areas in red. Now what I'm going to show you, now the arrows are going to be big so you can see them on TV, right? But I want to show you the way in which this vote changed from 2020. In many cases across especially rural parts of the state, he did a couple of points better than he did in 2020, hitting his targets with rural voters, evangelical voters. Go for it, Major.
That's where we bring in the exit poll data to reinforce what you're seeing visually here. Among conservative voters, self-identified conservatives, Trump did 4 points better this cycle than 2020. White evangelicals, 5 points better than 2020. White and no college education, about even. But for those first 2 categories, the arrows and the exit polls tell the story. All right, Anthony, let's go to Pennsylvania.
Yep, now everybody had watched this going in, and I want to show you, because we always went out and talked to voters in and around the Philadelphia area and then up into the Lehigh Valley. Again, a lot of white working class voters here, a lot of suburban voters. Now the key here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the 2020 vote, okay, and compare that in the area, and then watch what happens as Major, I'll hit it.
I'm pointing, he's hitting.
Watch this area here because it's kind of more red, but in 2020 it was kind of more blue, right? So now it came back a little bit more lighter red, a little more blue. That tells you that Donald Trump just enough swung some of those suburbs this year.
And now let's lay over the exit polls, explain what happened to the Democratic coalition, and it's perfectly illustrated by what you just saw in eastern Pennsylvania. Among Latino voters, Kamala Harris shed support as compared to Joe Biden, President Biden in 2020. Among young voters, didn't do as well as President Biden did in 2020. And even among women, slightly worse in 2024 for Vice President Harris than Joe Biden's performance. That is the cracking of the Democratic coalition, which showed up in lots of battleground states, but most especially it showed up in the leakage seen here in eastern Pennsylvania. Now, let's round this out, Anthony. Let's go to Wisconsin.
Yep. Wisconsin, we called this, well, late into the night, even into the early morning hours. What we were waiting for was Milwaukee, but that's part of the tale here, which is to say that Democrats need to do well in a couple of key counties in Wisconsin, in Dane County around Mount Madison, and then in Milwaukee here. And what you saw, and I'll compare this to 2020, was that Harris got just slightly fewer votes than Joe Biden, but she needed even more because, same story, Donald Trump had run up the score all throughout the rest of the state, again, with that consistency, and that's how he hit his marks.
And an exit poll piece of information that applies to Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. 3 states so far the former president has flipped. For voters who said their finances felt to them worse than 4 years ago, look at that number. 80% for former President Trump, 17% for Vice President Harris. Back to you guys.
All right, Major Anthony, thank you.